Okay.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, Rabia. We are live on my channel, and welcome on my channel for the very first time. And hope this session would go very well. So, of course, I expect the same from your side. So, first thing first,
Walaikum Assalam. Mhm.
yes. First thing first, I would like to introduce my guest speaker today to my viewers. That Rabiea Faruqi is a clinical psychologist, psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner as well. So more than that, Rabia, if you'd like to, say more for yourself, so please, mic is yours. Go ahead.
I think you have given a detailed introduction, Kiran. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. Other than these things, I'm also a teacher as well. I do teach MPhil and PhD fellows in Institute of Clinical Psychology. So I have that background going as well. I do my private practice, and I love such kind of shows.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, Rabia, that we are going to discuss about narcissism. Okay.
Yes.
Narcissism itself, of course, it is a big issue, and people are getting more awareness about it these days. And people sometimes they mix it with a narcissistic personality disorder and narcissism. So I think I would begin with this question first. I would like to pose that to you, that what do you think, what is the difference between narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder? If you can share that with my audience, so then we can carry on further.
Okay, so Kiran, that's a very good question because we do see people throwing around this term like anything. He's a narcissist, she's a narcissist, the narcissistic abuse and this. And when people, say the utter word narcissist, they are
Yeah.
usually referring to the narcissistic personality disorder. And everyone you are tagging or you are, highlighting as a narcissist does not need to be a person with narcissistic personality disorder. It could have some sort of narcissism, or there could be the fact that you don't know enough about that. But right now, it's a very fancy term that just gets thrown around quite often. So narcissism, what is narcissism? Narcissism is a personality trait. Okay, it's the you can say it's a way of thinking, it's a way of feeling, it's a way of behaving. Narcissism is a very unhealthy obsession with oneself.
Hmm.
Okay? That is all about narcissism, and it's a personality trait. Personality traits exist on a continuum. There is a continuum on which, on one end of continuum, there is healthy narcissism, and on the other end of this continuum is the unhealthy narcissism. And when you
Okay.
cross a certain limit on that continuum, then only then it becomes the narcissistic personality disorder. If there is a person who has all the traits of that healthy narcissism, they might be, snobbish sometimes, they might be arrogant sometimes, but other times they are quite well, they are empathetic, they connect well with other people, they do care about other people. Okay, they may have, some sort of narcissism, but that's not narcissistic personality disorder. To classify someone as having, narcissistic personality disorder, it is important that they meet a certain diagnostic criteria. So there is a diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, which has 9 symptoms, and they have to meet at least 5 of them in variety of settings for quite a long time, since at least early adolescence till later in life. Only then one can be diagnosed with a personality disorder. But when we talk about narcissism, it's a personality trait. People do have some level of narcissism. Everyone has some level of narcissism within themselves, and that is usually in healthy limits. But
Okay.
narcissism is basically obsession with oneself, with a specific aspect of oneself or in general with oneself, but it is an obsession with self.
Okay, obsession with self. It could be a sort of personality trait. But the
Hmm.
core characteristics of narcissism, meaning like, yeah, these are the target points or the targeted sort of traits through which we can, identify or can relate someone that, yeah, these are the core characteristics. And then, we just maybe careful or whatever, we can take any further steps.
Mm.
So how do you see for the core characteristics of narcissism, if you can
Okay.
please share this?
The core characteristics of narcissism, when we have already, defined the narcissism, its obsession with self. So we are now talking about in what ways that obsession can be expressed, right? Those will be the core characteristics of narcissism. So the ways in which that obsession with self, manifests is like people can be, you know, they have high fantasies of ideal love and success and power that could be internal, and they can be talking about such things as well. That they want ideal things in life. They would want excessive praise and excessive admiration from everyone. They would, force people to admire them. They would be a little entitled, right? They want, they want special treatment in situations where it is not due, but they just want to be treated especially. They want to be associated with special people or people with high authority or famous people. These people, you will often find them jealous of other people's maybe success or maybe beauty or whatever, but they won't agree. They think that everyone else is envious of them or jealous of them. You will find them a little arrogant sometimes. Okay, this is also a core characteristic of narcissism. Lacking empathy is a core characteristic of narcissism. Like people who have healthy narcissism, they are not always very empathetic. They do care about other people. But when there is a clash between their own needs and other people's needs, then always their needs come first. But when it's
Mm,
narcissistic personality disorder, they lack complete empathy. They don't even care about anyone else. Okay? They can be quite manipulative for their own gain. They can manipulate other people. And they are very, charming. They are very, like they are always talking of themselves very highly. They would think there's a fundamental flaw with a person who has, high narcissism. Their thinking is like that. It's not like they are lying. They do believe that they are the best.
mm. So, meaning a sort of a personality without any, flaws or any sort of, problems or
Yes,
issue. And they
exactly.
think,
Mm.
and they keep themselves on a high pedestal that, yeah, these are the things.
Mm.
Okay, now if I just say, suppose for, as you said it, that everybody sort of
Mm.
they would be a little bit, narcissistic, or they would have a sort of problem, you can say, or a trait of narcissism. But when we have to compare that with a sort of healthy self-esteem, how do you differ?
Mm.
Meaning, of course, self-esteem is a very much important. People, they are talking about these
Mm.
days about it. But
Mm.
if we can compare
Mm.
and differ it from self-esteem or maybe healthy
Mm.
self-esteem, how would you differentiate it both between these two, narcissism as well as when we compare that with healthy self-esteem? So how do you see it?
Okay, so healthy self-esteem can be, you can say healthy narcissism is a bit like healthy self-esteem. Okay, you can be, maybe you can be the best among in one thing. If you believe you are the best in certain area, that can be true. That is a reflection of your healthy self-esteem. If you are self-assured, you believe you can do something better than others, or if you believe that you can take on any challenge, it could be very true. Okay, so that is healthy self-esteem, and that is a very healthy limit of narcissism as well. But when we are talking about the dysfunctional narcissism and how it is different from healthy self-esteem, that is always, quite excessive.
Mhm.
And you will find those people with very fragile egos. They won't take criticism. They won't even take healthy feedback. If it does not, if you try to just correct them, if you try to tell them even politely that okay, I think this is wrong. You should do this way. You should reconsider something. They will feel it as an attack on themselves. Their
Mhm.
ego is very fragile, and they are just boasting about themselves, and you will see there maybe their actions do not match with their words. There is not much
Mhm.
evidence for the things that they are saying. Maybe if someone who is has narcissistic traits on unhealthy level, okay, and they believe that they are the most intelligent people among their group, their IQ test won't suggest the same. Okay?
Mhm.
Or maybe someone believes that they are the most handsome or the most beautiful person around. Maybe other people perception of them doesn't, quite really evident about that. That people do
Mhm.
find them as attractive as they think that they are. So you will always find that there is no or little evidence for what they are believing to be true about themselves.
Okay. Now, when we talk about particularly narcissistic personality
Hmm.
disorder, and there is a sort of,
Hmm.
criteria, as you just mentioned that earlier,
Yes.
meaning a sort
Hmm.
of, diagnostic and statistical manual
Hmm.
of mental disorder, which we can call it like
Yes.
DSM. And to what
Hmm.
level does it like, be specified or being diagnosed that, yeah, this is the level of DSM that we always put it like as a psychotherapist or any expert or
Hmm.
psychologist. So if you can share a little
Hmm.
bit about it as well, please.
Okay. So according to DSM's criteria of personality disorders, there are other personality disorders as well. Okay, so let's just go generally and then I will connect specifically narcissism to that. That there should be disturbance in certain areas of functioning. And what are those areas of functioning? Those are interpersonal relationships, that is a cognitive level of functioning, that is occupational functioning, that is affective, functioning, your emotional regulation and all that. If there are disturbances in these areas, and these disturbances are there from at least early adolescence, which means, early teenagers. Although
Hmm.
people who have personality disorders, those traits are visible since childhood, but they may, they may readily be visible in early adolescence. Okay, since then you are seeing those disturbances, and these things are present in variety of situations, like I've already mentioned, that interpersonal relationships, the way you think, the way you feel, your occupational functioning, your personal functioning, those deficits or those manifestations persist, then we can say, okay, it's a personality disorder, right? So for narcissistic personality disorder, there are total 9 symptoms, and
Hmm.
to diagnose someone, we at least should have 5 symptoms from those that list of 9 symptoms only, and those symptoms should be present in those variety of situations,
Okay.
right? Like, let me
Mhm.
explain the symptoms one by one, and then I will give an example. For instance, symptom number one is, exaggerated sense of self-importance.
Okay.
Like someone thinks that they are too important. They exaggerate about their, achievements, and they think that they are the most superior person around. So that exaggerated sense of self-importance is one of the symptoms. Okay. Then there is the preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success and power and ideal love. That they are always, thinking about that stuff in their mind, and they may be discussing it with everyone else, and the belief that they are special and they are unique, and that they should be associated with only other special people,
Hmm.
right? And they can only be understood by such people who are as unique or as special as they are. Okay, which in a mind of narcissists, no one is as special or no one is as unique as they are. So
Right.
that is why they often feel, misunderstood or disconnected with other people as well, because they think no one is at their level. And then there is, excessive need for admiration. That they always want to be admired. They push people to admire them. And they feel very, very threatened in the environments where they are not being praised, they're not being admired, right? And then there is a certain sense of entitlement, right? They're unreasonable demands from the environment. They want to be treated differently than other people. They want certain favors which are not, which no one is obliged to give them, but they think that they deserve those favors, right? And then they are interpersonally exploitative. To gain
Hmm.
something, they can easily exploit or manipulate other people, right?
Hmm.
And then there is lack of empathy that I
Right.
first explained, that they don't really give regard to other people's feelings. And the ninth symptom is that they are often envious of other people. But how does it manifest? If someone is always, telling that that person is jealous of me, she is too insecure with me, he is envious of my achievements, he knows that I am the best and he is not. So you should, that's an indicator that actually that's their own insecurity. They are jealous of other people, they are envious of other people, but they project that on other people. So these are the 9 symptoms, and at least 5 have to be present since early adolescence and
Hmm.
in variety of situations. Like if someone thinks, like, you can say that the five symptoms could be one of those, could be a sense of entitlement. So they feel entitled when that entitlement manifests in every area. They think that they are entitled, so they are in interpersonal relationships. They think that they should be always getting, more attention in their house. In school, they think that they should be getting more marks than other peers who are performing at the same level. Even if they're going to any restaurant, they think that they should not wait in the queue. They should get their order first because they have that entitlement. So that symptom manifests in multiple areas of their life.
Hmm.
So if
Thank you so
all
much
this
for.
criteria meets, only then we can diagnose narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay, thank you so much for explaining that in more depth and more detail. Being a sort of like part of a kind of Pakistani nation or of a part of a society, a lot more
Mm,
at a time I've noticed that people that, because now everybody have got access to Google, everybody got access to
mm,
knowledge and information because of social media as well. So now they've started,
mm,
or I've much seen a lot more people that they label other people, meaning like if they would see some sort of kind of indicator, let's say for example
mm,
an indicator of jealousy, so they would label it with
mm,
a sort of certain problem. So same
yeah,
again, like for grandiosity, how do you see it if
mm,
you would define it? Because this could be a noble sort of indicator of, maybe you can say, narcissism of general people, normal people, or like grandiosity is also a main sort of character or a trait where we can consider, no, this should be a particular trait of NDP, narcissistic personality disorder, or no, this could be general, because again people they get confused because of envy and because of
mm,
grandiosity. So how would you
mm.
define it, and can elaborate a little bit more about it, like for us to understand, even though as like for all of us? So how would you see it?
If it's envy, or if it's their grandiosity, if it's actually the case that they are jealous of other people, or if that's the case that they think that they are too special, right? These two things are interconnected somehow. Someone who is grandiose, because grandiosity is not healthy self-esteem. Grandiosity is excessive, right?
Hmm.
Grandiosity is the word for excessive and over the top type of overconfidence,
Hmm.
right? People with healthy self-esteem, you won't find people who have a healthy self-esteem often comparing themselves with other people. Me being the best in my field does not equate to you being the worst in yours. No, there is no comparison, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
मैं कुछ अच्छा कर रही हूँ वो मेरी अच्छाई है doesn't mean that other people are lower than me or they are
Hmm.
not doing enough. But
Hmm.
people who are envious and grandiose, you will find them often indulging in those comparisons. That they are
Hmm.
often drawing comparisons in themselves and other people. I am the best means you are the worst.
Hmm.
I have the cleanest house means that other people's houses are very messy. Like I have the best dress means other people don't even have a dressing sense.
Right.
Right? That is the that is an expression of grandiosity. That to make yourself feel better, you have to put other people down.
Hmm.
And where it is coming from, grandiosity is actually stemming from a low self-esteem. Their self-esteem is actually low. They don't have a healthy self-esteem and they overcompensate. The defense mechanism is of overcompensation that they, convert it into a superiority complex. They convert their inferiority complex into a superiority complex. And this is a subconscious mechanism. They are not aware of it. It just happens that their primary defense mechanism to go to. So internally, they are actually insecure. They are actually jealous of other people. Internally, they actually, see themselves as the worst. But
Hmm.
externally, they are, converting that in all superiority complex and it is coming out as, comparisons with other people, believing
Hmm.
that they are the best. And, and also projection. The envy part is projection. They are
Hmm.
always insecure with other people. They are always jealous from other people, but they cannot, accept that feeling. So they project that on other people. Like other people are jealous of me. They talk about me. They are envious of me.
Hmm. Okay, thank you so much for elaborating that. When I was some sort of thinking about some sort of questions and jotting down some questions, uh, one or two terms came also, like for sort of finding out information, and this was something like covert and overt narcissism.
Over. Hmm.
What
Hmm.
is this? If you can explain a little bit about this covert and overt
Hmm.
narcissism terms,
No.
for my audience to understand it more, but in more detail.
Okay. Okay. Right. So there are basically five types of narcissism, and overt and covert is, you can say general categories, and the remaining three types come under those categories. So
Mm-hmm.
overt narcissism, overt is anything that is observable by other people.
Mm-hmm.
That is expressed outwardly, that is overt. And covert is anything that is, not observable by the people, that is expressed, that is felt inwardly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So overt narcissism is the one that I have just told you about. The narcissistic personality disorder is actually the overt narcissism that is,
Mm-hmm.
experienced by other people as well, that is observable by other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
That is overt narcissism. Overt narcissism, you can say, is the hidden narcissism. These people, you won't find them very arrogant or very, snobbish or very outwardly lacking empathy or like that, or having that sense of entitlement. But internally, you will find them with having, a certain kind of victim mindset. Their
Oh.
obsession with their self is in a victim mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to be taken care of by other people. Their self-esteem is, they're always like, you can draw the like distinction like that. An overt narcissist will say, hey, you should serve me because I am the best and I deserve that. A covert narcissist will say, you should serve me because, I'm so weak, I'm so fragile, and that's why I deserve this treatment. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
certain sense of helplessness and victimization in covert narcissism, that these people are not very overtly arrogant, but
Right.
internally they are also very self-obsessed. So this is about themselves, their needs being met, they should be taken care of, but in presenting themselves in a very victimized and helpless manner.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let us discuss this NPD disorder, meaning like narcissistic
Hmm.
personality disorder.
Hmm.
Uh, do you think it is inherited, or it does inherit from maybe their grandparents, from their family background, or from their parents? How do you see it? It's a problem of like inherited sort of like background, or it is
Hmm.
something being developed, as you said it from adolescence. So, or could be a main factor, meaning like inherited sort of personality disorder, or especially NPD would be a inherited disorder, inherited problem. Meaning, if you can just explain a bit about it as well.
Okay. Perfect. I got it. So, Kiran, that debate comes from the nature versus nurture debate, right? Is it in nature or is it nurtured later in life? So, when we talk about, psychological disorders, we follow a biopsychosocial model, which says that any disorder is a combination of these three factors. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
biological aspects suggest that there is some genetic predisposition for every problem. So,
Mm-hmm.
when we see from that perspective, so narcissistic personality disorder does have some genetic predisposition. It does get inherited. We do have genes within ourselves that can later develop into narcissistic personality disorder. But those genes only express when they get a favorable environment to be
Mm-hmm.
expressed. Okay, one person, they may have a gene inherited in them, but their parenting, their early childhood experiences do not favor the expression of that particular gene. So they won't develop the disorder. They won't develop that personality type, right? They will develop, the gene will get expressed and they will develop the personality disorder only if they experience the environment that was favorable for that gene. So the environment that is favorable for the narcissistic personality disorder is a very, very, sometimes permissive type of parenting where there is no control and excessive love. right?
mm,
Or there could be a very authoritarian parenting as well can lead to narcissistic personality disorder where there's so much control but no love.
mm,
So if and the parents are also not able to meet the needs of the child in an appropriate manner. They are, maybe the needs are left undermet or over gratified. If there is under gratification or over gratification, so all these situations are the favorable situations that will favor the expression of that gene. So,
mm,
through this perspective, we can understand any disorder, including narcissistic personality disorder, that yes, there are certain genes that are inherited, but that those genes will only be expressed if the individual experiences the environment that is favorable for that gene expression. So, it's
mm.
nature plus nurture.
Nature plus nurture. Understood. Uh, Nature plus nurture, of course, we just, been through from different phases. And you said it that, those personality disorders, especially, NPD, would be more highlighted by the time of adolescence. So a lot more of the time that maybe that would be any sort of issue or a problem, they most of the time relate it to their childhood experiences or childhood trauma as well. So, does it also relate with narcissism as well, or narcissistic personality disorder? That some of people's childhood trauma would be very much harsh, or maybe they would been through with a sort of traumatic condition, traumatic time that could also affect maybe that what a sort of a factor for them to become sort of maybe a narcissistic personality or with like going to go on a higher level of disorder. How do you say it?
Exactly, exactly. There is in most cases, if I not go, as far as saying in all the cases, I will still say in most cases there is a childhood trauma. There is a troubled childhood, right? And troubled childhood does not mean that was a trauma of a kind that there was sexual abuse or physical abuse. No, not necessarily. Excessively permissive parenting is a trauma for a child, whereas there is no parental guidance, no parental control, and excessive amount of love and warmth, like and there is no guidance. That is a trauma for a child or for a growing child. So
Yeah.
see, early childhood experiences do shape the disorder, but for diagnosis we say that by adolescence it should be expressed. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि आफ्टर 18 years of age जो है narcissistic personality disorder हो जाए. No,
Right.
it is present since childhood. The traits are present since childhood, and they become very observable by the child leads, becomes an adolescent.
Hmm.
But it is present since childhood.
Right. Okay. Understood. Most of the time, what happens, of course, like maybe when we, always project or visualize about male personality, we always consider and relate this that okay, narcissism is a trait or characteristic of that could be of only male gender, and we most of the time ignore the female gender to get rid of it. No, female, they can't be narcissistic, or they can't be having a problem of narcissism. How do you see it? I mean, like, did you experience being like a lot more patient did come to you and they said it, yeah, we did observe it, or their family members, they did observe it that yeah, maybe they're female members of a family or spouse, or we did suffer with sort of female narcissistic personality disorder or female narcissism trait. What was your experience? How did you observe? And something, if you observe, please share with us.
Okay, that's a general belief that we have about certain disorders in our field as well. That okay, this is a male disorder, this is a female disorder. This is not the case, right? Narcissistic personality disorder is, we can say that males are more overtly narcissistic and
Mhm.
females maybe are more covertly narcissistic. But even that is not a limitation. That is not the only condition कि ऐसा ही होगा. Females are overtly narcissistic as well. There are multiple, in my experience, there have been female clients who were who had that narcissistic personality disorder. And we are saying narcissistic personality disorder is that overt narcissism. It's not covert narcissism. We don't diagnose covert narcissism in DSM. So, so the way they express their narcissism, like males do express it very, very overtly, and maybe because of the cultural limitations and the upbringing that we have, females do not get the chance to express that narcissism very, openly and very overtly. So they become more like overt narcissists. But the problem exists equally in men and women.
Oh, okay. So, we cannot generalize with the sort of,
Yes.
gender or the sex that, yeah, this is something like, male or female. There's nothing like that. Of course,
Hmm.
anybody can be,
Hmm.
or suffer with this
Hmm.
problem or with this issue.
Hmm.
Okay. Of course, whenever we talk about sort of, issues and problems, we do talk about relationship issues as well. And when we talk about relationship issues or problem, uh, this narcissistic personality could also be a big issue in relationship.
Hmm.
And do you
Yes.
think that if somebody is narcissist, would he
Hmm.
or she would be a big problematic sort of for his or her spouse, or it would be being narcissist he would struggle in a relationship? How do you see it, and what would be your observation and study in that sense, that if you'd like to share with us?
Okay, so Kiran, there is, you can say, a trajectory to the relationships of narcissists, right? Initially, when they are in power in their young age, usually there are the other person is suffering because of a narcissist at the hands of a narcissist. It's mostly the case where other people or their partner, their spouse is suffering because of them, right? And narcissistic personality disorder is unfortunately among those disorders which we say that it has a very low prognostic factor. It does not get, it does not get managed very well because these people they seldom realize the error of their own ways. They even when they come to therapy, they do try to manipulate the therapist as well. So there is, another agenda going on in their mind. So usually they have a trajectory. Initial years, in the years when they are powerful, they are, maybe they are young and they have more power, other people are suffering because of them. But with time, people do get, start to get away from them, right? People do start abandoning narcissistic people. People do start running away from them. Okay, their friends usually leave, their relatives usually abandon them. Okay, spouse is someone, okay, unfortunately, are not able to leave, especially in our culture. In our, you will see it around you as well. If you have been to Pakistan, you have seen it. If people don't, people just cannot, leave marriages so easily. But when, as the time passes, often their children leave them. So at that time, a narcissist, starts to suffer because they to thrive, they need a narcissistic supply. This is also a word that is very often quoted in literature and the writings about narcissistic personality and narcissism, that a narcissist needs narcissistic supply to survive, and that supply comes from other people. So when other people start, getting away from them, when other people start to abandon them, when other people start to run away from them, they get, shorter and shorter on that narcissistic supply. Then it becomes problematic for them. Then their narcissism becomes problematic for them. But before that happens, they don't feel any problem with themselves. It's almost always the other people who are suffering at their hands.
Okay, then of course you said it that, yeah, maybe somebody would be suffering, maybe would sort of kind of narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. your friends, or maybe his friends would leave, maybe sometime at certain points, his colleagues, or maybe family members also would be a little bit like,
Yes.
they would just
Distant
stay
from them.
from, yeah,
They
from
have
that.
put up their boundaries.
But what about a spouse who have to deal every single time, every single minute, that she would be in that relationship? So then, how to deal with sort of narcissistic personality disorder, whether because the highest level or being narcissism somebody, then what would be the risk factors, and then how to deal with such a person that who is sort of narcissistic, and if that would be a very higher level, so then how to deal in that sort of relationship where as you said it, that somebody else would suffer, not him. So then how, what would be the way, or solution for this?
Okay, so Kiran, unfortunately, there is not a very linear solution for this. As a therapist, we always, and where we have such clients, we do get a lot of clients who are victims of narcissistic abuse. They don't have a problem of their own; they are suffering at the hands of a narcissist. And we do have to, evaluate their situation very realistically.
Hmm.
Because in our culture, leaving a spouse, especially for a woman, is not easy. We are bounded by, we are bound by the culture as well, and there are other restraints as well, like financial restraints, and if their spouse leaves, then where are they going to live? There will be security issues and shelter issues and everything like that. So we have to assess the situation very, very realistically, right? So the only way to survive, like either you like it's a struggle. It's just survival. Okay, if people have the choice to leave, so we empower that choice and we encourage them to leave or make a healthy boundary. Sometimes putting up boundaries with a narcissist may become very dangerous for the other person as well. They may become very violent because they are not used to that boundary. Right? So we have to evaluate such situations. And that's a very unfortunate situation that we don't have a solution to it, how to deal with a narcissist. We
Hmm.
will have to see what you have what certain characteristics, what specific characteristics that specific narcissist has, and how to deal with those characteristics. And if you are, too dependent on that narcissist for your own survival, then unfortunately, and you cannot even leave, then unfortunately you have to submit. Then unfortunately, you have to give them the control and you have to, minimize the instances where you can be directly abused. Safety
Hmm.
becomes the ultimate goal. Like, okay, don't provoke them. Stay safe, right?
Hmm.
And if there are people, if we see sometimes this happens that the partner who is in the two people are in a relationship, one is a narcissist and one is the victim of the narcissistic abuse, and surprisingly the one who is a victim is actually the one who is financially providing, is actually the one who is running the house, is actually the one who is more responsible, right? So
Right.
they what do they have? They have just a psychological dependency on them,
Hmm.
right? They are fearful of the consequences, the culture, लोग क्या कहेंगे, क्या होगा, वैसे क्या होगा. They are fearful of those consequences. So only in those cases we can, empower people to take a stand against the narcissist, to put up healthy boundaries against the narcissist and to, let go of that narcissist. But in other situations where we see that we have to see very realistically that there is no escape from the situation and this person's survival is dependent upon that. So the ultimate goal is to save a life.
Hmm. Okay. uh okay, we can discuss that much more in detail, because a
Yeah.
relationship is that sort of a topic, or could be a discussion where a lot more things, like do sort of come and interrelate, and this is not
Yes.
something I would say a way out that, yeah, we can just solve for one problem or one issue, because that is also interconnected, interrelated to the other issue and another problem. It's that sometimes
Exactly.
gets like more difficult. But for now,
Mhm.
if one issue in sort of relationship, any sort of relationship, not husband, wife, or the spouse one, or maybe your family members as well, gaslighting. Do you think that gaslighting is also could be a sort of a normal trait of somebody who is would be
Yes.
very problematic, but when it comes to
People who
not,
want to avoid blame do gaslight as well. It's not always very narcissistic. Mm.
yeah, but when it comes to narcissist, how would
Mm.
they use this tool very badly? Now you've got a opportunity, you've got a chance, and because your personality is like that, and again then above all, on the top of it, you do gaslight. What would be the level? Meaning, if somebody would do gaslighting, whether in family and any sort of relationship, so what could be the limit, or what could be the extent like a narcissist can go for gaslighting? If you can just say something about it.
They can go to any extent. Gaslighting is one of the manipulation techniques a narcissist use. Right? Gaslighting is basically, invalidating another person's experience,
Mhm.
invalidating another person's valid experience. So this may happen in other cases as well, where the person who is gaslighting is even not a narcissist. The people
Mhm.
who are very uh, avoidant of blames, they don't want to be blamed for anything. They may somehow sometimes gaslight the other person, but
Mhm.
for a narcissist, it's the ultimate manipulation technique. And they can go to any extent. There is not an extent to which a narcissist can't go. People with
Mhm.
narcissistic personality disorder, when we are saying narcissistic personality disorder, they can go to any extent, right? So their victims, start to question their own reality
Mhm.
because that's what they do to them. They invalidate their valid experiences, they invalidate their valid emotions. They just outright tell them that you are crazy, that you are experiencing these things, this never happened, such never happened, and you are crazy, you are making up things. And their victims do start to, lose the sense of their own identity and reality. They don't know anymore that what is true and what is false, what is it that they actually experience, what is it that they just made up in their minds.
Okay, now we are coming towards the wrapping up the show. But before that, I want to pose a few questions, and this is something about different types of narcissism. I would want you to discuss few types of it, and what do you think that which one is more worst? And something, is there any sort of changed or positivity, or we can see that somebody is narcissistic, but there are chances that he would change, or there would be a little bit changes would come in his sort of behavior, or sort of his maybe trait. He would just improve himself, and maybe he would realize by a certain point or by such time that other people, they can also live happily with somebody who is having a narcissistic issue or problem. So then, like, please go ahead for this question about types of narcissism and which one is the most worst, and maybe if there is any hope that narcissistic people, they could have some sort of changes in their sort of traits or behavior.
Okay. So there are four or five types. Two of those we have already discussed, the overt narcissism and the covert narcissism. Then there is communal narcissism. Then there is, a malignant type of narcissism, which is more closely related to the antisocial personality, where you
Oh.
can, add criminality to the narcissism as well. Right? Communal narcissism is the one where people are, community workers, community leaders.
Mhm.
But underneath that facade, they are narcissists. They
Mhm.
do so much community work, they lead the community as that is a way for them to get their narcissistic supply. But they don't realize and they think that they are very fair, they are very just, and they are doing so much for the society. But underneath that, they do not realize the way they treat the people who are right under their, under their supervision or under their subordination. They treat them very badly, and maybe they could be doing some very immoral, very wrong things behind the facade of their community work. So that is communal narcissism. And you can often see that the community work of leading the community is often a very favorite task for a narcissist. So they are attracted towards such kind of positions like politics and community work and every leadership position because that is the place where they can be highlighted a lot. And then there is
Mhm.
malignant narcissism, which is the one that is more closely related to the antisocial personality and psychopathy, right? You can include they are very vindictive and they are very like they're very angry and they don't have their lack of empathy is most evident in this type of narcissism. They don't
Mhm.
see other people as people, they see them as mere objects.
Mhm.
Right? So that is one type, and these both of these types are more, you know, related to the overt narcissism than covert narcissism.
Mhm. Okay.
And the other question you asked,
Yeah.
that if people do realize that they have these traits, okay, that depends upon the level of severity of the problem. Like we say, narcissism is a trait that exists on a continent, right? The more, the more far away a person is from that, point of moderation, the less likely they are to realize that they have a problem and it's, that it should be treated or they should mend their ways. And the more, closer a person is to that point of moderation and the healthier levels, the more likely are they to realize that they have some problem and, they should get it treated or they should do something for that.
Okay. So now this is a time that somebody, sort of, a person who is narcissist, he realized that now I've got some issues, I've got some problems, and he really needs to seek a sort of, help, and he just gonna approach any psychologist, any expert, any psychotherapist. So for you, what is there to offer sort of, treatments and some sort of, if there are some therapies and other sort of, treatment which you think that, yeah, those could be more suitable ones for them to, like, like if they can do it themselves, or you wanna just, give them a sort of treatment or sort of a therapy. So we would like to listen that as well.
Okay. So there, there is an abundance of therapeutic approaches then you can apply to any problem, and it largely depends on the school of thought that you mostly follow. But there is one therapy that I personally like, that I personally, found very helpful for even people with narcissistic personalities, and that's schema therapy. Basically, if I give an outline of this therapy, is that we work on the core beliefs of a person and core beliefs, the cluster of core beliefs that they have. And we believe that those beliefs are developed during their early childhood experiences. They may develop later on as well. And there is a, type of जो है schemas or core beliefs that are directly linked to the narcissistic personality, that they have certain types of beliefs, and those beliefs, those schemas are internal, models that affect their cognitions, that affect their, emotions, that affect their behaviors, that affect their experiences. So we identify those and we work on those belief systems through, through cognitive work, through experiential work, through behavioral techniques, and through affective regulation, emotional regulation, and all that.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing all this information about this particular topic, which I brought today. And thanks a lot for responding. And
Thank you for
I just
inviting.
any last comment from your side you want to give, and then we have to close the session.
Okay, so I would, love to share my feedback that I'd love to be the part of this show, and this is a very important topic. And
Yes.
because of two and three things, this is important. First, that like where we started, that his term narcissist gets thrown around a lot. People,
Yes.
you will find people labeling other people as narcissists, and it's the case that if I don't like someone, I can say that he's or she is a narcissist. That is not the case. While using diagnostic terms, while using such, terms, be very, considerate that these are diagnostic terms and you cannot just label some people because based on your own preferences and likes and dislikes, right? So I hope that we were able to convey this message to the audience that narcissistic personality disorder has a criteria, and to label someone who has such, we have to meet that criteria. Second, that this is not a topic that often gets, talked about very often. So that I was, I highly appreciated your effort to bring this topic into light and inviting me to talk about it. And thank you so much for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And soon, inshallah, I would also, contact you again, like, for any other particular topic as well. So thanks a lot for, for coming and for giving out your precious time. And I definitely mean it that it would definitely add value to my audience and to my viewers. So you have a lovely day. Inshallah, gonna see you soon. And bye bye from my side.
Allah
Assalamu
Hafiz. Bye bye. Take care.
Assalamu alaikum. Bye.